Let us pray. O Lord, grant us a daily awareness of the precious gift of life which you have given us. As members of this legislative assembly, we dedicate our lives anew to the service of our province and our country. Amen.
Introduction of visitors.
Mr. Speaker, it's my pleasure to introduce you today to a distinguished visitor who is seated in your gallery. It is His Excellency, Dr. Peter Palanjo, the High Commissioner of Tanzania. He is on his official familiarization tour of this province and has received briefings today and will later this afternoon from various departments of our government, and he seeks to promote closer links between his country and our province. He is a distinguished author and noted scholar in the area of African literature. He served as an educator in the United States as well as in Tanzania prior to his becoming his country's representative here. I would ask him to rise and receive the warm welcome of our assembly.
Presenting petitions.
Mr. Speaker, I would like to present a petition which is exactly the same as I presented last year, but has 250 more names on it this year, asking for government to increase home care services, particularly support services for people under the age of 65.
That includes Calgary McKnight.
I have the pleasure to introduce a petition signed by 1,122 students and concerned Albertans. They are asking the government to stop the erosion of quality and accessibility in our colleges, universities, and technical institutes.
Edmonton Meadowlark.
Mr. Speaker, I have the pleasure of presenting a petition that was prepared and initiated and distributed by Joe Martinez, a grade 12 student at St. Francis Xavier High School. It's been signed by 231 people who are very concerned about the pending strike by teachers of the Edmonton Separate School Board and are asking that the Legislative Assembly of Alberta understand their concern and take actions as necessary to avert that strike.
Reading and receiving petitions.
Member for Calgary Mountain View.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like the clerk to read the petition which I tabled Thursday last, please.
The undersigned requests legislation to delay all proposed pulp and other forestry developments in the province of Alberta until such time as, number one, a class environmental assessment that reports the cumulative impact of all existing and proposed forestry developments has been completed, and two, full and complete environmental impact assessments equivalent to the Federal Environmental Assessment Review Process, SOR/84-467, including public hearings, have been completed for each proposed forestry development. Reports by standing and special committees. Notices of motions. Introduction of bills. Tabling returns and reports.
Edmonton Center.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to table a report by the New Democrat official opposition called Action on Immunization, which outlines 7 key recommendations that must be undertaken to ensure 95% of 3-year-olds being immunized in the province.
Minister of Education.
I take pleasure in filing with the Assembly today 4 copies of the Spring 1990 Action Plan as presented by the Premier's Council on the status of persons with disabilities. This report was released, Mr. Speaker, on Friday, and copies have been made available to all members of the Assembly.
Introduction of special guests.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It gives me a great deal of pleasure today, Mr. Speaker, to introduce to you, and through you to all members of this Assembly, 30 members of the Evergreen Senior Club from the town of Olds. They are accompanied by Margaret Clayton, Jean Hertz, and the bus driver, Larry Wilson. I would ask that they stand and receive the warm welcome of this Assembly.
Member for Three Hills.
Mr. Speaker, it's a distinct pleasure for me today to be able to introduce a group of seniors that my colleague, the Honourable Minister for Family and Social Services and MLA for Olds Didsbury, has also met. Many of these people are from his constituency as well. Mr. Speaker, they are the Burgethal Seniors, which is a rural community in my constituency. As I said earlier, some of them also reside in Olds Didsbury. The 36 members of the group are located in both the members and the public gallery, and I would ask them to rise and receive the warm welcome of the legislature.
Calgary McKnight, followed by Edmonton Jasper Place.
I'd like to introduce to you, and through you to the Assembly, a group of Girl Guides from my constituency. They have been working on their citizenship badge and are here to see government in action. There are 26 girls in the 11th Guide Company. They're accompanied by 5 leaders: Laura Tonhauser, Pat Letizia, Michelle Strudwick, Annette Glynn, and Judy Fortini. They are sitting in the public gallery, and I would ask that they rise and receive the traditional warm welcome of this Assembly.
Mr. Speaker, I would like to introduce today a constituent of mine, Mr. Robert Porter, who is struggling with MS. He's working very hard to attempt to maintain a residence in the community. With Mr. Porter today is his wife, Mrs. Jerry Porter, and her brother, Eldon Lander. I'd like them to receive the recognition of the Assembly, please.
Edmonton Meadowlark.
Mr. Speaker, I would like to introduce to the Assembly Joe Martinez, the grade 12 student from St. Francis Xavier, who I mentioned earlier. He is responsible for initiating and distributing the petition which I introduced earlier today respecting the teacher strike, and I'd ask that he rise and receive the welcome of the legislature.
Minister of Education.
A pleasure for me today to introduce a friend and colleague to many of the members on this side of the Assembly. A friend from Calgary, Mr. Brent Shervey. Mr. Shervey has recently been appointed a member of the Board of Governors of the Mount Royal College in Calgary. He's here in Edmonton with colleagues from his company. I'd ask Mr. Shervey to rise and receive the warm welcome of the Assembly.
Ministerial statements. Oral question period.
Honourable Leader of the Opposition, before we have the oral question period, could we have unanimous consent to revert to notices of motion, please? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Deputy Premier.
Sure, I'd like to ask the leave of the Assembly unanimous consent to deal with government motion number 12 on votes and proceedings, which would put into place the special committee's recommendations for the committees of the Assembly at the earliest possible opportunity. I understand this has been agreed to by the House leaders.
Thank you. Oral question period. Leader of the Opposition, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To the Minister of Environment. Mr. Speaker, last week after a lover's quarrel, we learned that the Premier and the Minister of Environment were on the same wavelength, Mr. Speaker. That's scary to begin with. But, Mr. Speaker, now it's becoming increasingly clear that this wavelength is bad news for Albertans who care about the environment. Mr. Speaker, over the weekend, there have been some disturbing reports that the Minister of the Environment is preparing to sell out and won't necessarily require a public review of a new proposal for the Alberta Pacific project. Mr. Speaker, I hope the reports are wrong. We'll give the Minister a chance to tell us if they're not, Mr. Speaker. My question to the Minister, can the Minister assure us once and for all that a new proposal will get a new review with full public hearings?
Well, Mr. Speaker, like his caucus colleagues, the Honourable Leader of the Opposition hasn't been listening. He hasn't been listening. Right now, I do not have before me a proposal. And how can one talk about something that one does not have before him? I referred earlier to a phantom proposal. That's what we have at this particular time. I understand that my officials have been in discussion with members of Alberta Pacific. I have not had an opportunity yet to discuss with my officials their discussions with LPAC, but until I have in front of me a proposal, a plan, I can't address it. And when I do get the proposal, and if I do get the proposal, then I will have something more than this mysterious new plan, new proposal to consider, and I'll be glad to answer the question at that particular time, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, what we're talking about is policy and principle here, Mr. Speaker, similar to what they called for, Mr. Speaker. We don't need a hypothetical situation.
Right.
And I say to this minister, either he's got to be aware whether he's going to stand up for the environment or be a flunky for these misguided economic policies. You can't have it both ways, Mr. Minister.
Hear, hear.
And my question is then, following from the minister's answer, how can the minister stand there and waffle about something that's fundamental to the environment movement as a full public environmental impact assessment process, Mr. Speaker? It's not hypothetical at all.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I disagree completely with the Honourable Leader of the Opposition. It is indeed hypothetical. Anything is hypothetical that you don't have before you. And I don't have it before me. Therefore, it's hypothetical. Therefore, I'll give him a hypothetical...
Well, thank you very much. Supplementary.
Mr. Speaker, under the LPAC, the report, 949, it says all major proposals should be reviewed at public hearings. That is not hypothetical, Mr. Speaker. That's what they're saying. And I want to say to this minister and ask him one more time, on principle, does he agree with that proposal? And if so, when will he announce this another hearing before we move into this, Mr. Speaker?
We have generally agreed, and had the honourable Leader of the Opposition been paying attention, he would have listened carefully to the throne speech where Her Honour the Lieutenant Governor announced quite clearly that we were going to form a new National Resources Conservation Board. Now that board will be, or the formation of that board and the terms of reference for that board will be brought to this House in the not too distant future. At that time, the kinds of projects that will be reviewed in a formalized fashion will be considered certainly by my cabinet colleagues and this caucus, and the terms of reference will be established, and we'll be in a position to answer the honourable member's question more concisely and clearly at that particular time. But right now, we're dealing with ghosts. I don't have a proposal before me. I don't know what it is I am supposed to be considering at this particular time, and until I do have a proposal, I really can't give the Honourable Leader of the Opposition a definitive answer, and he should understand that.
Question, Leader of the Opposition.
Well, you can't because you don't get invited to the secret meetings, Mr. Speaker.
Yeah, that's right.
But my question, Mr. Speaker, second question is to the Minister of Agriculture. Mr. Speaker, rural Albertans are sick and tired of opening up their newspapers and reading reports about farm sales, local businesses going under, declining school enrollments, and the list goes on. Now, Mr. Speaker, 2 weeks ago, my colleague from Bakerville urged the minister to speak up for Alberta farmers and get them the same kind of support the feds were offering Saskatchewan farmers. I recall it very well, Mr. Speaker. We had a lot of happy talk from the minister. There were no serious problems. Mr. Speaker, it seems that he doesn't seem to care about what is happening in rural Alberta. Mr. Speaker, I say to this minister, it takes more than happy talk to put in a crop in the ground, Mr. Speaker. And my question to the Minister of Agriculture is this. Now that the federal government has offered assistance to Alberta farmers, would the minister indicate what he plans to do to go after that $80 million in assistance, or are we just going to get some more happy talk?
Mr. Speaker, I'm afraid the Honourable Leader of the Opposition hasn't been listening to a couple of questions that have been asked in the House recently. One as recently as last Tuesday, where I reported on a meeting that had been held in Regina with the Ministers of Agriculture from the other Western provinces, and a joint communique going to the federal minister dealing with problems in the grain and oilseed sector. I also indicated to the House at that point in time that the province of Alberta is not as dramatically impacted for a couple of reasons which I won't repeat today, but I would suggest that response to the Honourable Leader for his reading. The Leader makes reference to an offer from the federal government which came out of our agricultural meetings in Ottawa on Thursday and Friday of not $500 million to Western Canada, but of $500 million to agriculture in Canada, an estimated $450 million of which would be made available to the farmers of Western Canada to offset depressed prices in the grains and oilseed sector. The position that I have taken, and I will continue to take, is that this government, under the leadership of Premier Getty, and making agriculture the #1 economic priority of this province, has been out in the field responding in a significant way for a number of years now. One of the dramatic moves made by this government was in 1986 with the Farm Credit Stability Program, which protected interest rates at 9%. And what I am currently saying to my federal counterparts is that welcome to the playing field. Look at what we have been doing, match what we have been doing, and flow our share through to our grains and oilseed producers.
Mr. Speaker, it's nice to talk about ancient history. What I was asking right now, there is a serious crisis in many parts of this province, and the minister should be aware of it by now, Mr. Speaker. And I asked him what he was going to do, and I want to ask him again about the $80 million that the federal government is offering. Are we just going to say to the farmers, too bad, we don't need the money? Is that what the minister's attitude is?
Mr. Speaker, now we've got $80 million on the table. I'm not sure where he's carving that up from. Currently, assessments are going on at the official level between the various provinces and the federal people as to what would be a fair and equitable distribution of the $450 million. And I am not prepared to accept, as the Honourable Member Cross may be, that Alberta's share is $80 million out of $450 million. I would repeat, the programs that we have out there are significantly attacking the problem, and I welcome the federal government's participation. Farm Credit Stability Program alone this year is probably bringing $130 million in benefit to our agricultural community. That is not history, that is this year. Farm Fuel Distribution Allowance is going to bring $90 million of benefit this year. I'll save the rest for my estimate, sir.
Mr. Speaker, this minister doesn't seem to realize that there is a crisis. His own department says there'll be a 54% decline in real income in Albertans. And let's talk about the farm fuel. You just taxed people again. You took 2-cent benefit away from them, Mr. Speaker. That's taking $20 million out of the rural economy. Would this minister at least then give his commitment here in the Assembly today that they will help farm families by restoring the 2-cent benefit under the Farm Fuel Distribution Allowance as part of your commitment to getting some of that money back from the federal government?
Mr. Speaker, if the Honourable Leader of the Opposition wishes to use Stat Canada's projections of net farm income in Alberta, he should be aware that they have now reduced that drop from 54 to 48%, and we're still speculating on market prices. As the honourable member and other members should be aware, we have retained the differentiation under the farm fuel distribution allowance so that our farmers still enjoy a 14-cent benefit on purple gas and 19-cent a litre benefit on diesel fuel. And we've made some other significant moves, and we welcome the federal government to come in and assist with that industry.
Member for Edmonton Glengarry.
Mr. Speaker, my questions are to the Minister of Health. The Alberta government presently spends millions of dollars a year either totally paying for or subsidizing people getting drugs, either on social assistance or under Blue Cross programs. The Alberta Pharmaceutical Association, Mr. Speaker, has indicated that about $24 million a year could be saved if generic drugs were dispensed through dispensaries in Alberta. The Auditor General in our most recent report indicates that for social services alone, about $2 or $3 million a year could be saved if we went the generic dispensing route. My first question to the Minister is this. Given that Alberta now only dispenses about 5% of generic drugs, whereas the average in Canada is between 25 and 60%, what is the Minister going to do to encourage the greater dispensing of generic drugs in Alberta?
Mr. Speaker, currently underway are negotiations between Alberta Blue Cross and the Alberta Pharmaceutical Association with respect to a 90-91 and a 91-92 contract with respect to drugs. Without going into the negotiations, because certainly the Department of Health has been a keen observer of the negotiations, I can confirm for the honourable member that in addition to looking at some targets for generic usage, we will also be discussing there will also be discussed the issues of the base price for drugs, the dispensing fee which pharmacists levy for professional services, and the overhead fees for the actual pharmacy in which the service is located. All of those are presently subject to negotiation. Without getting into details, which I think would be inappropriate, I would be pleased to report to the House once those negotiations are completed.
Mr. Speaker, the reports are that the Minister has already committed the Ministry, the government, to a scheme much like the scheme that we've had, saving really no monies for Albertans. Is that in fact correct?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I think the answer to my first question stands, or the first question of the honourable member stands. Negotiations are currently underway. I am not about to stand in this House and give out information which I think is inappropriate when a negotiation is going on, and when I'm ready to do so, I will.
Just for the monies that Alberta taxpayers pay for people on social services, or people on low incomes, or anything that the Alberta taxpayer has to subsidize, will the Minister commit to a 100% generic dispensation in that area alone?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I'm very much an advocate for the generic use of drugs and for generic drugs where appropriate. However, I don't think we should give to any Albertan one that is being paid, having their drug plans paid for by this province, no matter who they are, an inferior level of service if that's not appropriate. Certainly, to raise the level of the current 7% of generic use that exists within our province to a much higher and a more appropriate level is part of the goal of these negotiations. But making a medical decision as to which drug is appropriate for an individual is one that I think best be left to a physician, although some incentives could be taken out of the system that encourage more expensive rather than generic drugs that are of equal value.
Smoky River, followed by Edmonton Centre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On Thursday and Friday of last week, our First Ministers in Agriculture met with their federal counterpart, Don Mazenkowski. Would the minister be prepared to share with the House today what some of the topics that were discussed and what the ramifications may be on the province of Alberta?
Mr. Speaker, one of the areas that dominated the first morning was the topic that was discussed earlier on in response to the question of the Honourable Leader of the Opposition. The balance of the conference and the original intent of the conference was basically get an update on the various task forces and committees that are at work as a result of the Ag-Food Conference in Ottawa in December, dealing with such things as transportation and the way to try to address the payout of the Western Grain Transportation Act, compensatory rates, etc., etc. There were task force reports on supply management, both in the dairy and the feather sector, sustainable agriculture, registration of insecticides, and on and on.
Supplementary is to the Minister of Agriculture. Last fall, as a result of escalating sugar prices, a sugar price protection plan was put in place to assist the honey industry. Would the minister share with the House whether indeed the program has been implemented, and is there an uptake in the program, and are checks now being sent out to the honey producers of Alberta?
Mr. Speaker, honey production is definitely agriculture and was also a matter discussed in Ottawa on another issue than the sugar reduction plan. But yes, the program is in place, there has been a take-up, and checks are in the mail.
Mr. Speaker, it was a New Democrat by the name of Evelyn Shapiro who first pioneered coordinated home care programs in Canada. It was a New Democrat, Dr. Skelton, who first pressed for home care and single point of entry here in Alberta. And my New Democrat colleagues and I have been pressing for expansion to the home care program, not only for seniors, but also for persons with disabilities under the age of 65 in the province. And I'm wondering of the Minister of Health that given even the Council on the Status of Persons with Disabilities report last Friday, even they have said now that Alberta Health's lack of support on home care, ADL, and Blue Cross are unfair to Albertans with disabilities and that they've just had enough. Will the Minister announce today that she will provide home care support for Albertans with disabilities under the age of 65 and apologize for government's years of inaction on this basic issue of fairness?
Mr. Speaker, I'm not prepared to give an announcement today of the type that the honourable member would like to hear. I can say, however, that our drive towards increasing home care support in our province, I believe, is working very well. When we look at the doubling of our home care budget over the last several years, in fact, as the figure noted in the budget speech on March the 15th noted that we are now spending about $50 million on home care in our province, and several years ago, of course, it was far less than that. We have certainly targeted the over 65 age group, Mr. Speaker, and that was a very intentional move. I think now with the recommendations flowing out of the or the Premier's Commission for Support of the Disabled, as well as several other recommendations, we can look at how we can best target those resources into the under 65 age group, and that's certainly a review that I have underway.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the Council has targeted this minister and this government for unemployment, for family breakup, and for unnecessary hospitalization because of lack of action on this issue. And I want to ask the Minister of Health today, the minister who continues to jack up health care taxes for people, how then she can possibly turn around, and in the case as of Mr. Robert Porter, who's with us today with multiple sclerosis, that she can spend $500 to $600 a day for him to stay in a bed in the Misericordia Hospital, but doesn't allow the only $80 a day that it would cost to have him be at home where he needs and wants to be. This isn't just lack of caring, it's bad health care economics. We've had enough.
Mr. Speaker, I'm not sure what the question was in the last outline of the honourable member.
I can say that I am very familiar with the case of the individual mentioned because that individual wrote to me and I to them to discuss the issue of home care. I believe that we have to be ready to find resources within the health care system to reallocate those resources as opposed to simply adding on the resources as has been the case and really the way that the health system has been built, and not just in Alberta but across Canada. The reallocation of those resources takes some time. But in addition to the reallocation, we have committed a substantial amount of support to home care in this province, and I would be pleased to go over the details of that kind of support during the budget estimates for the Department of Health, which I anticipate shortly.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Last Monday, the Minister of Advanced Education said during budget estimates, and I quote from Hansard, "Alberta doesn't have to take a back seat to anybody in terms of what our universities are able to do in research and certainly in terms of attracting research people. I believe our level of support in terms of finances speaks for itself." Yet, and that was the end of the quote. Because of funding cutbacks, on Friday, the University of Alberta proposed shutting down the Boreal Institute at a savings of $250,000. This is one of the finest northern research institutes in the world. We have also learned that there may be a cut of 25% to the Developmental Disabilities Center at the University of Alberta. To the Minister of Advanced Education, now that our research is being forced into the backseat by this government's lack of commitment to funding post-secondary education...
Honourable Member, we're up to sentence number 7. Could we have the question, please?
How does the Minister respond to the proposed dismantling of the Boreal Institute?
Mr. Speaker, I thought I spoke quite clearly last Monday with regard to the funding of our post-secondary systems. Clearly, our universities are unique in that they have a research component. I simply remind the honourable member that the funding at the University of Alberta is certainly comparable with the University of Toronto, University of BC, and I don't think the U of A has to take a backseat to anybody with regard to funding. Mr. Speaker, we, in addition to the base funding at the University of Alberta, they receive an additional $10 million in the formula funding to help buy equipment.
Apparently, Mr. Speaker, this is not sufficient, and I would ask how much more will be cut before the Minister realizes that research in this province will go the way of the dinosaur.
Mr. Speaker, I don't often get exercise, but I don't know anyone other than the Liberal opposition that would refer to an increase in budget as a cut. I have great difficulty understanding. Certainly, Mr. Speaker, the taxpayers of this province, in contributing over $1 billion to the post-secondary system, are making a very, very major commitment. If a board-governed institution cannot allocate its own priorities in the best interest of its own institution, perhaps the honourable member would like the government to take a new approach to the whole governing of the post-secondary system.
Recently in Calgary, there was a report submitted to the Minister of Health from the Calgary Area Hospital Advisory Council, which recommended closure of emergency wards at the Peter Lougheed and the Holy Cross Hospital. The citizens of Calgary felt that they were getting a community hospital that would service 24 hours emergency problems. And further, the chairman of the committee examining hospital utilization services, Dr. Watnabe, also submitted a report to the Minister of Health regarding these emergency services. Could the Minister of Health please advise this Assembly as to her follow-up with regards to these reports and how her department will be responding to the concerns of the citizens in our community?
Mr. Speaker, my interest in calling for a review by both the committees referred to by the honourable member was to ensure an appropriate and reasonable access to emergency services by Albertans living in the Calgary metro area. It is not just a matter of single institutions and the emergency care that they provide, but the network set up which provides emergency services to all those living in the Calgary metro area. The reports have been made public. I am reviewing them very carefully. I will be planning in the very near term to be meeting with community groups in various areas of Calgary who are most interested in the report, and will do so before any final decision is made with respect to the disposition of those reports.
Thank you. And what directive have the two local boards been given to ensure that there will be a proper emergency service and a lesser emergency service? Constituents of Calgary are not quite sure as to which is the exactly emergency service.
Mr. Speaker, that's a very interesting question. One of the very excellent parts of the hospital, or the advisory committee chaired by Mr. Cornish of Calgary, was with respect to what constitutes emergency and what constitutes urgent care. It was a very important discussion, one which I'm reviewing very carefully, and I think the assurance that needs to be given is that the people living in the Calgary metro area are being provided with the most adequate and reasonable emergency services that we can possibly provide. That was the purpose of the two reports coming together, and I hope to have a response to them in the very near term. In the meantime, I can assure the people of Calgary that for the purposes of emergency services within the existing hospital framework, that is operating well. The question is, can we operate it better and more efficiently? And that was the purpose of the two reports.
Speaker, this government has cut shelter allowances by as much as 48% since 1982, even though rents have increased by 10% or more for substandard housing. Increasing numbers of children are using the food banks, and this minister is refusing to increase the ACE pension even though people are suffering serious mental distress. The Minister of Family and Social Services promised in this Assembly on March 14th that he would introduce social reforms and adjust rental allowances in this session. And then we've heard that it will be sometime this year. To the Minister, in view of the fact that so many people in this province are suffering, will this Minister tell us when exactly he is going to announce his social reform and raise the shelter allowances for people on social assistance?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I would want to begin by saying that, again, this government has recognized the need for social reform, and it's much broader than just looking at shelter rates or food allowances, that we want to have a very close look at the social programs that we as a government and we as a province are offering. And through that process, Mr. Speaker, I want to make sure that I have the opportunity of consulting with Albertans, consulting with some of the advocacy groups. I'm working with those groups already, Mr. Speaker. I've had numerous meetings with some of the advocate groups here in Edmonton. But again, Mr. Speaker, I want to continue to work with them, and I want to assure that the reforms that we announce are the reforms that are appropriate not only to address the immediate situation, but to carry us into the 90s.
When, John?
Supplementary, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, people have had enough of this minister dancing around, and they want an answer.
Hear, hear.
People are in desperate situations. They're paying more than half of their income for rent. They're selling their personal belongings even to make ends meet. And yet this minister has cut his social allowance budget by $12 million. To the minister, will this minister do the proper thing and tell people of this province when they can expect an increase in their shelter allowances?
Here.
Mr. Speaker, this minister is not dancing around. This minister and this government are committed to some meaningful social reform. We are taking some significant steps in that direction already, Mr. Speaker. And again, I want to reiterate that it's very important. It's important to those 68,500 caseloads that we're responsible for right now. It's important, Mr. Speaker, that we take the appropriate steps, that we take the appropriate measures over this next little while, and we intend to do that.
When?
Whoa. Your voice went up there.
Mr. Speaker, to the Minister of Occupational Health and Safety,
It wasn't until some 10 adults and 3 children became victims of lead poisoning at Alberta Recoveries and Rentals that this minister finally realized that the situation was serious enough to warrant an investigation. And this is the kind of treatment we get to unsafe work sites in this province and make Albertans wonder how many other Alberta recoveries and rentals there may be in the province here, unsafe work sites. So I want to ask this minister now, can he tell the House what was the result of his secret internal investigation, and can he explain why it took 16 visits from his staff, and even then we still don't have their health protected, Mr. Speaker?
Mr. Speaker, on Friday last, the question was asked of the Premier in regards to answers on my portfolio, and I want to assure all members and all Albertans that there will be no whitewash on the assessment that we're doing. And I want to assure all Albertans and every member in this House that no one, and I repeat, no one, will do a snow job on this minister.
Right on.
Mr. Speaker, my visit to Medicine Hat on Thursday last was a visit to tour the work site. And in touring the work site, I found that Occupation Health and Safety had provided material, and that material was on display in the work site in several areas. I spoke to the employer, and he assured me that the information was conveyed to the workers and pointed to the regulations that were posted. I met with the workers thereafter, and it's interesting, Mr. Speaker, that the workers agreed that some advice was provided. But some of the workers suggested the information could have been more direct and enforced by the worker or by the employer. Some workers were saying that the advice given was not enforced as well as it should, and in many cases, some of the workers followed the procedures in regards to wearing masks, coveralls, washing hands, etc. The workers suggested to me, Mr. Speaker, that the communication between the employer and the employees was not as complete as it might be. And in addition to the number of workers I talked to with Occupation Health, will be contacting all other ex-workers that are there for their comments and concerns. Mr. Speaker, I'm satisfied that the policies that have been taken and the policies in place today will go a long ways to preventing from this happening again in the future.
Man, Mr. Speaker, this is unbelievable. Let me just ask this minister one more question. Since this case demonstrates a clear case of negligence, if not open contempt, by Alberta Recoveries and Rentals with Occupational Health and Safety Department directives, will this minister act under Section 32 of his own act and lay charges against this employer?
Oh, well,
talk about unbelievable.
Mr. Speaker, on my trip to Medicine Hat, and in response to the assessment that...
Your conversations back and forth across the aisle and listen to the minister, please.
And in response to the assessment that I said I would undertake, let me advise this House that we have complied information on 56 people. From information available today, this morning, there is no reason to believe that there are any serious acute effects now occurring in anyone, workers, ex-workers, children, or any other family members. No indication at present that further treatment of anyone is required. All workers above the action level are no longer exposed. Workers' homes have been checked by the local health unit. Alberta Occupation Health and Safety have been informed that where necessary, cleanup measures have been carried out to prevent any exposure to children to lead. Further action. Health staff from Alberta Occupation Health and Safety will be following up on blood level results to be sure all workers return to an acceptable level. Blood lead results are being made available to each individual tested. Mr. Speaker, in closing, action taken today and policy in place now should go a long way in preventing this from occurring in the future. With that, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to table a copy of this report to each member of the Assembly.
Thank you.
Edmonton-Whitemud.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, according to Hansard of March the 29th, the Premier of the province, in response to questions I raised pertaining to the departure of Don McMahon, quoting Hansard, they are going to make sure that the minister involved will be responding to the additional questions. Mr. Speaker, just in case any of us have to be reminded of the issue, 3 times in the earlier Hansard of March the 20th, not once, not twice, but 3 times the Minister of Public Works, Supply and Services made reference to Mr. McMahon not being fired, not being terminated, but leaving on his own volition. Mr. Speaker, it's come to my attention, I've learned, that there were negotiations that went on for 3 months to arrive at an out-of-court settlement. Mr. Speaker, to the minister, why would department officials negotiate for 3 months and eventually arrive at an out-of-court settlement if Mr. McMahon left on his own volition?
Mr. Speaker, on several occasions here in the House, I have indicated quite emphatically that one, Mr. Don McMahon resigned from his position with the Public Service in the province of Alberta, and that resignation took effect September 1, 1989. Mr. Speaker, I have no way of knowing what the member from Edmonton-Whitemud may be inferring, but on previous occasions in the Legislative Assembly, and of course quoted in Hansard, the inference has been made on several occasions that one Mr. Don McMahon was terminated or fired, either directly or inferred. I have no way of knowing whether or not Mr. McMahon has been making those statements or, in fact, has been asking the member from Edmonton-Whitemud to make those statements. But quite clearly, Beauchesne has a ruling with respect to any inference with respect to that. I do not believe that it's appropriate, Mr. Speaker, to have a man's career discussed, debated, and in fact destroyed in an assembly such as the Legislative Assembly. Mr. McMahon resigned effective September 1, 1989.
Order, please. This issue has come up a number of times. It's in danger of being ruled out of order because of repetition. It's the same question being asked day after day. And please at least have the courtesy to allow the minister to reply without trying to shut him down. Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I want to make it very, very clear that Mr. McMahon resigned from his position for the public service in the province of Alberta effective September 1, 1989.
Mr. Speaker, I'll direct my next question to the Minister of Labour responsible for personnel and administration. Mr. Speaker, to the Minister, is it government policy to arrive at out-of-court settlements, to negotiate those settlements, and I'm talking government policy, when one resigns or leaves under their own volition?
Mr. Speaker, we have a number of settlements and programs when people leave our service, but in this particular case I would refer questions to the Minister of Public Works, Supply and Services.
Mr. Speaker, I have a document dated that quite emphatically uses the words resign in it. I have a signature that has Mr. Don McMahon's signature on it. Mr. Speaker, there's an inference here that, quite frankly, puts the career and the reputation of one Mr. Don McMahon in a very negative light. There's an inference being put forward here by the Liberal Party that the gentleman was terminated or fired. Mr. Speaker, the gentleman resigned from the public service in the province of Alberta. I have no way of knowing how Mr. McMahon can have his reputation established, and I want to convey a statement that I think is very regrettable, that an individual's career, an individual's reputation can be brought forward to the House, the Legislative Assembly of the province, and the individual has no other protection to establish his own integrity, Mr. Speaker. And I want to convey an apology to Mr. McMahon for for the position put forward by the Liberal Party, because quite clearly, in my view, they are harming the gentleman's reputation and his character. And Mr. Speaker, I am prepared to file or table with the Legislative Assembly the resignation document should I receive permission from Mr. McMahon.
Thank you. Thank you very much, honourable member. Thank you very much, honourable member. Grand Prairie.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Citizens in the Grand Prairie area are deeply concerned about the delivery of mental health programs. We've been getting mixed signals as to what is happening with these programs and how they're being funded and whether they're going to be continued. And I've been asked to put the question to the Minister of Health today so they can read the answer in Hansard. This is not something that they want to read in the media. They'd like to get the quote direct from Hansard. The delivery is normally through the Department of Family Services, Family and Social Services, apparently are in some jeopardy because of funding or from departmental reorganization. When inquiries are made about how these programs might be continued, the Department of Health becomes involved in the discussion. The question is, will the programs be continued and through what manner?
Mr. Speaker, I want to assure the honourable member and people of Grand Prairie and other areas of the province that moving towards a more effective delivery of community mental health services is clearly one of the priorities that I've set out while in this ministry. I can certainly report to the honourable member that the Grand Prairie Mental Health Services, which serves a vast area, frankly, from the BC border north to Peace River, east to Little Smoky River, and south to Grand Cache, is one that I believe will be complemented by the new Mental Health Act, which was proclaimed earlier this year. As well, there are 8 full-time therapists on staff at the clinic. The announcement within the budget of enhanced children's mental health services will be brought into that complement. And while the honourable member, the honourable Minister of Family and Social Services may wish to add to my answer, I can also say that services provided, for example, by the coming on stream of the Northern Alberta Addiction Centre and under ADAC will provide a complementary service to people in the Grand Prairie area.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The services that have been provided have been made available to certain members by members of the community by reference or by counseling from the people in the Department of Family and Social Services. If these programs are not available in that order, or if people don't go to that department for referral to the services, how will people in the community get access to mental health services?
I think, Mr. Speaker, and the Honourable Minister may wish to supplement my remarks, but clearly for Albertans wishing to access counselling services through our mental health clinics, that is the point of first contact to which an individual should go. If there is additional support that is needed through services provided by the Family Community Support Services Department, then they would be referred there from the mental health clinic. The Minister may wish to supplement my answer.
Edmonton Highlands.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Albertans are increasingly of the view that this is a tired old government that plays favorites, and people are saying enough is enough. Now, on Friday, Mr. Speaker, while the University of Alberta was handing out pink slips, and they may hand out up to 120 by the end of this week, while they were doing that, the Minister for Advanced Education, the Premier, were announcing that they were going to redirect a few $100,000 for Stettler Community Enhanced Post-Secondary Opportunities, Mr. Speaker. Now, I use the word, and I quote, right from the news release, it said redirect. My question is to the Advanced Education Minister. From which institution did he take the money to redirect to this new project?
Mr. Speaker, part of the, excuse me, the great success story of the post-secondary system is the community consortia, a system of 5 consortia that deliver credit programs throughout Alberta. One such consortia, Big Country, Mr. Speaker, operates and has for some years in the area covering the Stettler area. Mr. Speaker, the representation made by that community, its mayor, various educational authorities, had asked us as a department to increase, Mr. Speaker, the educational opportunities for adult students in that area. We listened closely, they made a good case, and we authorized not a new program, Mr. Speaker, but an expansion of his existing program in the community in the Stettler area.
Your question period has expired. May we have unanimous consent to complete the series of questions? Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I notice that the minister doesn't want to say that he stole from Peter to pay Paul in this instance. And I know also that he makes a good case about the importance of regional rural education. Right on. So will the minister tell us this then? Why is it that since 1979, the students in Peace River have been asking for proper, safe facilities instead of having to bring their own buckets to the facility to catch the rain as it comes through the roof, and they keep getting denied? Can he answer that question?
Yeah. Mr. Speaker, the honourable member for Peace River has made that case many times. The government and the department are seriously looking at it. That happens to be a major priority, Mr. Speaker, not just when it rains, but all year round. And I'm committed as minister to seriously addressing the whole question, which is another consortia project in northern Alberta. I assure the honourable member, Mr. Speaker, those in Peace River will get just as much attention as any other part of the province.
Point of order, Edmonton Meadowlark.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to make a point of order under Beauchesne, Section 348 and Section 4095. It relates to the nature of the question asked of the Minister of Agriculture by the member from Smoky River earlier today in question period. My concern relates to the fact that the question asked for information that would more appropriately be provided through a ministerial statement at the outset of the agenda of the day, rather than taking time that could otherwise more effectively and be better utilized in question period. Under Standing Order, under Beauchesne 348, ministers are, of course, accorded the right to a ministerial statement, which is defined as, among other things, a short factual announcement. The minister's response to a request to report on a conference and then to report on a program would certainly fall well within this definition of a short factual announcement. The definition of a question under 4095 would exclude this question from appropriately being asked during question period, because there must be some present value in seeking the information during question period rather than, say, through correspondence with the minister or the department, or in this case, in caucus. That information could very, very readily be achieved by this member from the minister, either in caucus, for that matter, by bumping into him in the hall. I ask, Mr. Speaker, that de facto, because you allowed that question and that answer to proceed, you decided that it did qualify under Section 4095 and that it wasn't more appropriately dictated to be announced under Section 348 ministerial statements. And I would request under Standing Order 13.2 that you would explain the reason to us for that de facto decision. Thank you.
Somebody else wants to get in on this? Good. Smoky River.
Mr. Speaker, just in response, I'm sure my constituents would be very pleased to hear that our urban representative of the Liberal Party has made this accusation. During the past weekend, Mr. Speaker, I've been deluged with calls. Within the last 2 months, the price of sugar has escalated very dramatically from where it was last fall. Last fall, it had increased roughly 30% from where it was the year before. we've made some very dramatic changes in the honey industry. We've taken away from the honey people the opportunity to access, and that is why I was responding in the House, so that the people had the opportunity to see or to read what the actual facts were. There have been a lot of misinformation that has been circulated within the industry. I'm not sure by whom, but nevertheless there is a lot of information that is indeed not factual, and I asked that question so it would be recorded in the House so that the beekeepers themselves could read and see what the actual true information is.
Hang on for a moment, honey. Westlock Sturgeon. All right. Honorable members, the problem of question period with the ebb and flow is difficult without us then having to get down to nitpicking about some of these issues that have been arising at the end of question period. And this is about the second day in a row, if not the second day out of 3. With respect to quoting Beauchesne 348, it really does relate to statements by ministers rather than to question period. The question was raised by the member for Smoky River was one that was not dealing with government policy. It was a question asking what transpired at a particular conference. I think the member for Edmonton Meadowlark would also realize that the chair did intervene when the minister started to go on a bit too long. The chair also had some discourse with the Minister of Agriculture about how the supplementary did indeed relate to the conference, and was assured that not only was it an agricultural issue, of which the chair was well aware, but also the fact that the issue had been discussed at the meeting at the conference of ministers of agriculture. So the chair felt indeed that the question was in order. Now, when other sections of Beauchesne start getting quoted, 4095, for example, a matter of some urgency, then that's a judgment call, and the chair under Beauchesne has indeed the responsibility and the right to act with regard to question period. Now, honorable members, if indeed you want the chair to be very, very strict as to what the quotations from Beauchesne really relate to, then fine. Be quite happy to go ahead and do that. In that regard, a number of questions will never see the light of day again. And the matter of repetition is one that has been seriously violated in terms of question period. There are a number of other issues here. The matter, expressions of opinion are being stated in the preambles, representation, argumentation, all these kinds of other matters that we can strain through the net if we wish. So, honorable members, order please, honorable member. Honorable member, you've been warned about this before, Edmonton Meadowlark. If you wish to have a discussion outside, please, we're only too happy to accommodate your wishes. But this is not to become a shouting match with the chair. It's not a point of order. Now, might we have orders of the day, and might we revert to the introduction of special guests? Member for Edmonton Belmont, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My colleague from Stony Plain